wish you'd understand. I just wish that God had a better plan. I'm so confused. I need a redo. Inside of me that's begging and begging and pleading. I just wanna feel free. I just wanna feel lovely. I'm surrounded by love that's in pain. Can I wipe your tears away? Please don't hurt for me. I hate that it's for me. It's for me.
Hi, welcome back to the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast, where I am trying to spread awareness about what it is like to live with chronic disease. I have been living with multiple sclerosis for the last 28 years. I talk about my journey as well as the journey of other chronic disease warriors all over the world, just to try to help people understand what it is like going through that diagnosis, the mental health part of it, the family part of it, the employment part of it. Today, I am sitting down with an MSer I met online on TikTok a few months ago. Jeff was diagnosed with his MS when he was about 31 years old back in 1996. It was a year before I got diagnosed in 97, so we have a lot of similarities there. And his attitude is very similar to mine on how you just have to think outside the box and keep on fighting this disease. And I asked him to come on to share his journey, just to try to help people understand this disease a little bit better. Please welcome to the podcast, Jeff. How you doing today, Jeff?
My name's Jez. I'm doing good, Brian.
I love that entrance, brother. I love that entrance. So, Jeff, when you went through your diagnosis in 96, that was a year before me. I know your dad has had MS, and so you had a little bit of knowledge, but can you kind of take us through where you were at in your life and what kind of symptoms you were going through that threw the red flags up to make you go to a doctor to try to get it figured out, and which led to your diagnosis of MS?
Well, I was going along just working like anybody, working for Mercedes at the time. I had a few weird issues going on before, but it really didn't tie it to anything other than, my rough lifestyle, I guess. But I woke up one morning, looked in the mirror, kind of had a blurry sleep in the eye situation, and then soon realized it was kind of staining,
Yeah.
and scared me a little bit. So I went in and was diagnosed with optic neuritis. Oh boy.
Yeah.
And as you said, my dad had MS. I'm like, oh shit, what am I going to do here? It wasn't diagnosed right away with MS. It took him a while.
Yeah.
The spinal tap and a few other little symptoms, meets, stuff like that before they can actually get down to it. But, once I realized I had MS, I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah.
So my dad had it. And it's like, I really didn't, I see the way he took it, he really was negative about it, really kind of just, fought it. It was, of course, when he was diagnosed, it was diagnosed real easy either.
Right.
He was in the Marine Corps. They did brain surgery. Thought he had a brain tumor. That ended up not being the case. I've seen it. He went through a lot of heartache just being diagnosed.
Yeah.
But long story short, he did have MS.
Right. Now, I know when we were talking earlier and you said, you already knew a lot about MS because your dad had MS, and you kind of attacked your disease a different way because you didn't want to do it the way that your dad did it. Can you talk a little bit about that, Jeff?
Well, when he was diagnosed in his lifestyle, he was just really negative on everything about it and really didn't want to do, from my view, enjoy what he had in front of him, his life.
Yeah.
So I took that as a lesson. And I figured, well, okay, I've got MS. So what am I going to do with it? This thing, MS.
Right.
And I took it as an opportunity to look at life differently in a more positive aspect and whatever that may have meant at the time. I got into a diet, which it was an MS diet at the time of Dr. Swank.
Yeah.
Got into working out. Soon got into really working out, which did a, led me to doing a body transformation challenge
Yeah.
at World Gym.
Yeah. That is like,
And it also, like,
that is so cool. I mean, I had just gotten done playing at the University of Michigan, and I was big into lifting and all that. And to hear you say after your diagnosis that that's when you got into lifting, and I kind of attacked my disease the same way when I was 27. I'm like, okay, well, I love lifting, and I even, like I said to my doctor back then in 1997, I'm like, hey, I like working out. Can I still work out? He goes, hell yeah, Brian. He goes, do everything that you're doing. He goes, don't change anything. He goes, you're in great shape and you got to keep yourself in the best shape. And that's the way, I attack this disease. And I think that's badass that you like turn that switch when you got your diagnosis. You're like, you know what? I'm going to attack this through diet. I'm going to attack this through the weight room. And you just took off with it.
any way I could, because I seen what my dad did, and I assumed it's, it's something I felt like I needed to do while I could do it. And when I say bodybuilding, I didn't think of it as I was going to get into bodybuilding. I would have laughed at you back in at that time. But I did get into a diet, which led me to the transformation challenges, which I won the World Gym. And from that, my peer pressure and stuff, I got talked into doing a stage show, which I laugh now and I laugh back then. It's like, get on stage in a thong and like, okay,
Right.
whatever, but I ended up doing it because of my MS and where I was going with it, just enjoying what I was doing and getting in shape. And lo and behold, I win my first bodybuilding show.
That's
And I
awesome.
soon realized that the actual bodybuilding wasn't healthy or conducive to good health because of the, cutting in the weight for the show.
Right.
So I got out of it. I wasn't into it for the bodybuilding, even though I did do it. I did enjoy it. And it was something that MS kind of took me down that path. I don't know exactly how it happened, but the New York MS Society got a hold of my story. I suspect one of my customers, your clients, turned me in. I stick with it.
Mhm.
So I had a gal come out from New York MS Society, who was part of the New York Mets at the time, and they did a photo shoot. Well, they put together a book that ended up being in all the neurologist's office as far as newly diagnosed patients get. It
Mhm.
was called Incidental Heroes. So that was kind of the start of my MS journey. Not only doing the bodybuilding and the disease transformation, it was to help show people with MS that life's not over with the diagnosis with MS.
Amen, man.
So
Yeah.
this book came along, and I was all for it. And it turned out to be a great tool, not only for newly diagnosed, but me as well. It inspired me to do more and to live positive with my MS.
Yeah. And I love that, because I mean, you thought outside the box. You weren't into the gym before your diagnosis, and you just said, okay, it's MS, it's my situation, and I got to figure this out, and that's the way you figured out. I love it, and that's kind of the same way that I attacked it. I'm like, okay, I got MS, it's my situation, I got to figure this out. I'm going to attack it in the weight room. And I also, I lived my life like as long as I could because I knew that I might not be able to work. I needed 30 years to make it through a pension with the state of Ohio, and I knew I might not make it there. But I wanted to enjoy every every day that I could, being able to work, and I attacked everything 100%, whether it was in the gym or my job, or I tried to be the best father I could, I just, cause I knew that MS could say goodbye to that on any given day.
And see, and that's the life that I'm trying to bring about is just like you say, man, that's my situation, which I recently just wrote a poem about. That's my theory is, we all have MS. We all have a situation to deal with. I think actually having multiple sclerosis gives us a view of what possibly might be down the road. So we enjoy what we have now,
Yeah.
or we do what we can now in whatever manner or faculty that we can do it.
Yeah.
Back then I seen it as an opportunity to live life differently.
Yeah.
Because of the example my dad gave me,
Right.
which was a positive in the fact that I now took what I could have went down a negative rabbit hole and looked for the positive things I could do. And I ran with it. And I've been running with it ever since. Like I said, that was back in, by the time I did the bodybuilding, it was 98. That led me to winning a trip to Mexico through the World Gym,
Yeah.
which introduced me to scuba diving. So it was another notch in my belt as far as doing what I could while I can.
Yeah.
And, I ended up becoming a scuba diver because of the bodybuilding and winning the shows. I now, I can't do it anymore, but I have 151 dives under my belt.
Yeah. And and you didn't let MS stop you. And that was something that, you had an opportunity to do. You took off and thought outside the box and you enjoyed it. And you got 150 plus dives. I mean, and that's the thing that I want people to understand is just because you get that diagnosis, it doesn't matter if you're 18 or 27 or 30 or whatever, life's not over and you got to still attack it and make things happen, and think outside the box, and do things that you might not have done when you were healthy, but you might enjoy doing them now that you have MS. And you even did the same thing with, I know you were a motorcycle rider and, you were going to give up on that, but you figured that out. Talk a little bit about that, Jeff.
Yeah. So, when I was in the scuba diving, stuff like that, I had actually had one Corvette. I was in the car business, working on cars. Well, it became a job. So actually restoring the vet wasn't really a hobby. And I'm thinking, okay, I'd like to ride a motorcycle. Yes, they're dangerous, but, life's too short and something I always wanted to do. So I ended up talking to this Corvette place and it's like, no, they didn't want my car, but hey, we just traded in that motorcycle. He looks over my shoulder and he's looking at this Harley Dyna White Glide. I'm like, hell yeah. So I started riding a motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
And because my MS, as it progressed, I started losing my left side. My left arm wasn't working as well.
Yeah.
And I could still ride the two-wheeler. Well, then I started having problems with my left leg. And I had gone to Laughlin one year to a motorcycle rally, and I dropped it.
Mm-hmm.
Went right over. I had an AFO brace from that on. It's like, okay, I'm done. A buddy of mine came to me. It's like, well, you like riding. You can do a Honda Trike, something like that. I'm like, no, that's more of a car. I don't want to do that. He shows me this picture of a Frankenstein Trike kit. I'm like, I can do that.
Yeah.
And so I ended up converting my motorcycle myself. And then as I progressed with the MS, I put electric shift on it, an auto clutch. I kept adapting as my progression kept going, but I kept riding.
Yeah.
And I ended up going up into Canada. I've ridden from coast to coast through the California redwoods. I've been to Bar Harbor, Maine.
Yeah.
And my last trip on that thing was 6,800 miles.
That's awesome.
And, I put stuff on there that I put safety stuff. So if going along, my foot would fall off the floor, right? It would catch it. You can only imagine what would happen if your foot hit the ground on a strike.
Right.
Yeah. So that gave me nightmares. But instead of not riding, I adapted something that if it happened, I would be safe.
It's what. And that we adapt all the time, Jeff. That's like me and you when we get on lives together. And, we talk to people that are newly diagnosed and, we're telling them you're going to figure it out. You might not know what the answer is now, but you're going to figure it out because we adapt all the time, and I did something similar. I had a motorcycle before I got diagnosed when I was in my 20s. And when I got diagnosed, I right away got rid of it. I'm like, okay, I'm never going to be able to do that again. And I went years without, riding a bike. Again, I didn't have the balance for it and all that. My wife and I got a place up at the lake and I'm like, you know what? A jet ski is just like a bike. It's a bike on water. I'm going to get a jet ski and I got a jet ski. I'm like, screw you, MS. I'm still going to figure out how to ride a bike. It's not a bike, but it's still my kind of bike. In my head, it's a bike.
Right. And it's, I did enjoy it. And, speaking of that peg, coming back to Colorado after that 1,600-mile trip to Bar Harbor, my foot did come off the front peg. And then she had caught that piece that I put on there to catch my leg. And then as I hit the brakes, my heel was hitting the pavement like, ooh, hell yeah. I'm glad I did that,
Yeah.
That in the end of it.
Yeah.
But also, I had to recognize there was a time when I needed to quit. So even as I was enjoying the ride, I got home on it one day, couldn't get off the bike. And I told myself, you know what? It's time to get off before you fall off.
Right.
And so I got off the bike, never been on it since. But I sold it to a left leg amputee in St. Louis, a Marine that lost his left leg. Happier than pigs and shit. I tell you what.
That's awesome.
I love that bike.
That is awesome.
And I'm glad I did what I could while I could. And I actually rode that bike 2 years longer than I drove the car.
Right. I did the same thing, Jeff. I mean, just a year ago, I said, you know what, it's time for me to give up the jet ski because I was having problems getting back up on it, out of the water. And I'm like, I had my fun with it and I did it, and MS is never going to be able to take away the fact that I had a jet ski, just like it's never going to take away the fact that you had a bike.
Right. I'm glad I did it. And when I did have it, I used it. I mean, like I said, how many guys with bikes have rid coast to coast, or I've been up in Canada. And it's because of the MS. It's taught me to look at life differently and do what I can while I can.
Yeah.
I take full advantage of that.
So
Even as I was losing my left leg and left arm, and
yeah, I know. That's what I wanted to talk to you about next, Jeff, is like where you're at now. And I know from talking to you at Alive, you got the trigeminal neuralgia. You suffer with that a lot. And I want you to talk a little bit about that. But I also want to talk about your mobility, because I know you're in a wheelchair most of the day. I mean, you only have the use of one of your hands now, but you still figure shit out.
yeah, I'm down to a wheelchair full time. I can't transfer anymore. That started back when I tore my rotator cuff, ended up in shoulder surgery, and that's been about 6-7 years ago now. Well, I didn't go right from walking. I went from falling down several times to using a cane, to where fell several times using a cane, to then using a scooter, one of the little 3-wheel scooters, to really pulling myself around with my right arm, because I was bodybuilding. I had the strength, and I also tore my rotator cuff. So when that rotator cuff surgery put me into a wheelchair, and man, I've been fighting ever since to stay out of it. And I would, where I could transfer, but it got to a point where the danger of falling was greater than the need to transfer. That kind of was the transition. But yeah, I'm down to one hand, which kind of works. I mean, it's numb, and my brain, and that's it.
To talk about the trigeminal neuralgia that you go through, Jeff, I don't have that, but I know a lot of people suffer with that. Can you kind of explain what that is like going through that?
Oh boy, that's something that'll wake you up. So it is a nerve in your face, and it scared the hell out of me the first time it happened. So to give you an idea, if you Google it, it's called the worst pain known to humanity. It's a couple steps up from giving childbirth, and it's a step above getting your digits cut off. Now, this pain can show up like a light switch. It's out of the blue, and it'll last for, on me anyway, a couple minutes to the hour. An hour was the longest. And I'll tell you what, I came out of that thinking I wasn't going to survive.
Yeah.
Heart beating, sweating, got sick to my stomach. It's just ungodly pain.
Yeah.
I can't talk, speak, nothing. It's just, yeah. So I've gotten on this drug that takes care of that. Problem is, it makes everything numb, and it's been affecting my ability.
Yeah.
And I've had now this gamma knife procedure done, and let's knock on wood. I hope it's taken effect, that I am pulling back on the drug that's making everything numb, to hopefully see that. But it hasn't stopped me from doing what I'm doing. I'll tell you what, it will stop me in my tracks when it happens.
Yeah. I know I've been on lives with you, Jeff, where you can be like mid-conversation, and then all of a sudden, like your face just locks up, and you have to X out because you're in so much pain. And I'm just like, I can't even imagine going through that. And you still come back positive, though. I mean, you go through it, you deal with it. It's like we learn how our body is going to treat us, and we learn how to manage it. And I think that's a key part of the journey, is like just understanding your body and how you're going to react to when it does things to you.
Yeah, and when that happens, it's like, I can't do anything about it. I mean, there's not a pain pill. There's nothing you can do.
Right.
I can even call the ambulance, and, by the time they got here, taking me in, because when it goes away like a light switch. It's the most bizarre thing ever.
Yeah.
And I could worry about it and stress about it, and it just, it wouldn't do me any good.
Yeah.
So I move on, and deal with it when it happens.
Right.
Hopefully we got it, knock on wood. It's not, it's like Fight Club. Let's not talk about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's under control. But, it just pushes me that much more to do what I do. And I do what I do to keep my mind off the concentrating on the MS.
Absolutely.
I try to stay, not that I don't get in that negative rabbit hole every now and then, but for the most part, I try to look at the positive side.
I don't think that there's anybody that doesn't go down that negative rabbit hole every now and then. I mean, if you're not human, if you don't, because this disease sucks, and I'm not going to sit here and paint it as a picture that, anybody in the world can handle, because it sucks at times, but you got to figure out a way to get yourself back up, because it's a long life. You get diagnosed when you're 27 or 30. When you did, we might have 40 or 50 years left on this earth. So how do you want to go through it? Do you want to go through it positive or you want to go through it negative? You have a choice.
And on that note, let's get back to some positive parts of my life and that's allowed me to do, if you will.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Raising my kids.
Amen.
I was able to retire early. You get a note that's segue in here saying that I didn't retire as soon as I was diagnosed with MS. I worked all the way up until 2002 before I retired. And, even my employer, because I was one of the top 30 technicians in the country for Mercedes, I was a very productive part of their organization. And as my MS progressed, HR worked with the ADA Act to implement putting in air conditioning. They allowed the technicians to wear shorts. We fast became known as the prima donnas of Motor City, which is part of this big automotive group.
That's awesome. That's awesome that you were able to do that, Jeff, because I went through the exact opposite with my employer, the last one that I had. They knew that I had MS and I was asking for accommodations and I was ignored and eventually let go. And it was the hospital system that let me go. So, kudos to Mercedes that they took care of you, man. That's a good, I'm glad that you had an experience like that. That's important.
It's huge. It not only allowed me to continue working as long as I could, because I wasn't wanting to retire. Right. I wasn't going to use MS as a reason to retire.
Right.
But, when I started to bounce off the rack in the automotive lift and my bench was to hold myself up, I'm like, okay, I talked to my neurologist. We decided, this is the time.
Yeah.
And it was based on certain circumstances and the decision was made. And a good decision it was because that allowed me to retire, and with dignity, knowing that I could no longer do what I was able to do.
You called
that was a part of my life I was able to call it.
Yeah, you are able to call it. And that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be the employer forcing you out and, good for you. And I love the fact that you said, you lost your ability to work and you called the shots and it gave you more time with your kids. And I think that's important too. It gave you more time to be a dad.
It's huge. I can tell you a story about that was really important and has proven to be very, very good choice back then. It allowed me to spend more time with my kids. My daughter mostly because she was a little bit behind my son, and both of them are super kids. My daughter came to me one time with a project she had in middle school, 6th, 7th grade, something like that. And it was a debate on why she did this and a rebuttal. But anyway, it came down to she wanted a pink Mercedes SLK, a two-door convertible.
Fancy.
And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, no. I said, first of all, Mercedes doesn't make a pink car. Yeah, this is why it won't work. And that was my part of the assignment, right? Or coming back to that was like, okay, Dad, it's make a deal. She says, can I have a Mercedes SLK if I get straight A's through high school and graduate? I thought for a while, I'm like, why not?
Sure.
So we wrote up a contract. Guess what? She graduates valedictorian. That 1B.
Isn't that awesome? Motivation.
Well worth it.
Yeah.
Well worth it. Both my kids are super kids. They are very successful, both of them.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of both of them.
How do they understand the MS? How do they understand the MS, living with growing up with their dad with MS?
I think they understand that no matter what you got, you can still do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Don't be too negative about it.
I try to show my kids that too, from a young age, hey, Dad's got MS, but it's not going to stop me from being your dad. And I'm going to do everything I possibly can, to continue be your dad. And I know a lot of people struggle with that. I've talked to a lot of people that, they go into that mom guilt or that dad guilt. And I'm not saying that I never went through that. Because there were things that I wanted to do with my kids that I physically couldn't. But it's amazing, like seeing my adult kids now and just like the understanding that they have of how much I fight and I don't give up on anything.
Right. And I think leading by example is huge. And you can tell them anything you want, but just show them that, I didn't lay down for this.
Right.
I've actually done more because of it.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody that. My story is I've done more because of this. And I've traveled more. It all ties back into when I was first diagnosed and getting into that gym and, one thing led to another and just As the Empress throws signs down, you pick them up,
Yeah.
you go with it.
Oh.
And now, being doing the art, it's just been huge.
Well, and I was just going to segue into that, Jeff, about your art, because I mean, you weren't there like 20 years ago. I mean, you had no ambition for the art world that you have now, and just like seeing you in TikToks and just seeing the stuff that you create and how you have used that as your tool. And the thing that blows me away is that you only have the use of one hand, and you're still figuring shit out. I mean, you just came out with, you want to do sculptures with a chainsaw, and you can't use two hands with it, so you're figuring out a one-handed chainsaw. And I saw videos of that, and I'm just like, that's badass. Because, I mean, there's no products out there that we can buy, but you can still figure things out, and you adapt things. You're figuring out something to put on your help you put on your socks, because you can't do it because you don't have two hands, but you're figuring it out, and that's what I love about you, is like we figure shit out all the time.
And I go along with the saying that necessity is the mother of all invention, and as things creep up in my life here, as far as even transferring into bed, well, I can't afford the damn overhead wires they sell medically. I mean, they're astronomical.
Right.
So I'm looking at that like, it's a winch built on made on ceilings. I bought my stuff off of Amazon, and I've got maybe $200-$300 into it. I do an overhead wire system, and I can transfer myself. Doesn't mean it doesn't take time, but I can get it done.
Now, like
I've done that for
the one thing that I know you showed on one of the TikTok lives was the way that you created that one device. It's like from an architecture stand. But it like steadies your hand, and it enables you to still be able to draw and create things. And I mean, that thing just blows me away. And that's not something that you can, I mean, I think you said that if you wanted to buy it online, it would cost you $700, and you figured out how to do it for like a third of that price, on your own.
Right. And the one online is, we're talking a little desk, and it's for a kid that kind of creates some stuff. It'll hold a pencil, or maybe even a paintbrush. Maybe it's cheap. It's $700. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, there's nothing to this. So I got on and found me some linear slide rails. I made an industrial version of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I can use a router to do stuff.
Yeah.
I can mount a router to it. I can mount a glass cutter. I can mount a paintbrush. It depends how bad my hand gets. But right now, I use it to steady my hand. I hear a lot of MS artists out there saying that you've quit doing something because their hands are steady. I can't, because this may allow them to do stuff they used to do. And maybe I'm not the same type of artist as the guy that's got a steady hand, but I do my art.
Yeah.
And I don't sell my stuff. I do stuff for my grandkids. And, it's something I enjoy doing. It's the way I keep my mind off.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's occupying your mind. I mean, I do this podcast. I mean, I'm not making any money off of it. I do this to occupy my time and to let people tell their stories so that people understand this disease a little bit better. Because in my 28 years of having this disease, I don't think that people they don't get it. And you don't get it unless you got it. And I think that we need to talk about it more and more to make it more of a mainstream thing, that people get diagnosed with this all the time, and it's not uncommon, and you can still live a really good life after your diagnosis, but it's attitude, and you got to have that attitude.
And that attitude goes throughout everybody's life. I mentioned before that even my poetry, I explained to, it's the only way I can explain my MS is my situation. Everybody on this planet has MS, my situation. Whatever situation they may have, that's what you do with it.
Huh.
You could be perfectly healthy, but if you're sitting there watching TV all day, you're not. Maybe they are enjoying life. It's according to them, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But to me, that wasn't. I wanted more than that, and whatever I can do to get more. It's like sitting in my wheelchair. I sat in my wheelchair, just started. Well, I'm gonna concentrate on what I'm doing. I'm sitting in the chair doing nothing. If I'm doing something all day, I don't even realize I'm sitting in that chair.
Exactly. You got to.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to occupy your mind, man. I say it all the time. And everybody has different interests. I mean, you're into the art. I wish I was. I mean, I don't have that creative of a mind to do the stuff that you do. But I mean, it's just, it doesn't matter where you're at in life. You just got to figure it out. And anybody can do it.
Yeah. Don't ever say never or can't, because I laugh every time I see poet for poetry because I hated English. I don't like to write. It's like poem teacher give me write a letter to somebody, but yet I wake up 2 o'clock in the morning and decide I'm going to write a poem
Right.
about MS. And it turned out, from what I told, pretty good. And I like it.
You read that, or you read that, or brought that poem up in Alive, and I read it, and I think it's beautiful. I mean, it explains MS, and it explains it's from the heart. And I'm going to put up your poem on my Facebook and in the description of the podcast episode because I think it's awesome. I think everything that you do is amazing, Jeff, and I love talking to you. Because you got the attitude, MS is not a death sentence. You just got to figure it out, and we can figure it out, and we can still live a great life.
Yeah, we're all heading to the same place. It's just what we do along the way,
Yeah,
it's going to mean something to you, and if I can put a smile on somebody else's face, I've won. That's what I'm here to do.
yeah.
Even if I show by example.
I got another question for you because I know that you're in a power chair, and we talk about this on the lives, and a lot of people have questions, and I'm still not there. I'm not in a power chair yet. I ambulate myself. I mean, just talk a little bit about how Social Security and just the struggles with getting things that we need. Things that we worked for our whole life, we paid into our whole life, and just how difficult it is getting stuff that you need to live a decent life.
It's huge. In fact, spine insurance was my new job since I retired. So, I was very active. What put me in the wheelchair was, getting my shoulder surgery done, my rotator cuff. And in rehab, I started diving into my art a little bit more. I knew I was going to need a chair that, was able to keep up with me. So I needed a standing wheelchair. Of course, insurance is like, yeah, that's not medically necessary. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. What do you mean not medically? It's life necessary. So what I ended up doing, I had to buy a used one like eBay, a standing chair. Because I have stuff I'm still doing. I'm remodeling my kitchen. I had crown molding put up. There's not an option here.
Right.
I still have to stand. So it was necessary to me.
Yeah.
So I had to buy my own. Insurance wouldn't touch it. Bought one that I had to work on and keep maintaining. And that's how I started working on wheelchairs, by the way.
Yeah.
And I've given several away to people.
Yeah.
Fix them up good.
And then explain the cost of your wheelchair. I mean, the price tag on these things are like astronomical. And like, even if it's not something that you want, you got to take it. I mean, because that's what they're willing to pay you. And it's not even something that even functions well in your living situation.
Well, even then. So the chair I'm in now, I got the Permobil F5s, or the standing chairs. Both of them I got on my own. If you were to buy one new, insurance paying for it, it's a $60,000 chair. It cost me more than my wheelchair truck cost me. It's just unbelievable.
And then the added expense, you got to have something to lift it in and out of your car because those things are about 300 pounds to get and that's another couple $1,000s to get the attachment put onto your vehicle too.
So my truck, the conversion now, if I should be good, $45,000.
Oh my God.
That's in addition to the truck. So the truck I've got, and I bought mine off Craigslist actually, which was an anomaly in its
yeah.
To find this truck with only 6,000 miles on it and to pay, book price for the truck, and the lift was included. To replace that truck now, $149,000.
Oh my God. And
out of reach.
Nobody with chronic disease can afford that. And that's the sad part about how the system is. I mean, it's not for us. It's not for us to live a better life. It's set up against us.
Yeah. And if I didn't know how to do my own work, I would be in that position.
Right.
Really, I have some of that background. I buy chairs that are busted, thrown away, and fix them up. And the funny part is, as of a couple of years ago, I couldn't legally buy parts for my wheelchair because of the inducement laws. But I can change here in Colorado. What's funny is I'll call a factory trying to buy a part for my chair. They don't know how to price it because they don't have anybody that works on their own stuff. They want you to go through the manufacturer, through a company that works on them.
Yeah.
Well, there's such a markup on this stuff, it's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
I tell people with cerebral palsy and spinal bifida that are insurers that, if you break, you're months down the road before somebody comes up to see you.
Yep, absolutely.
So
I've heard horror stories about stuff like that.
I'm doing less than what I used to, but I used to really, talk to people over the phone and, help get some stuff going again and do what I can do,
Yeah.
you know, which, which by the way helped me out on my travels. I've traveled for the first time with my wheelchair, electric chair. They dropped me and my chair separately. They dropped me on the aisle of the airplane.
Mm.
And then my chair was dropped. And when I got to it in Mexico, it didn't work.
Wow.
Turn the switch on, the lights, I'm like, okay, what the hell?
Wow.
And luckily, I get it back to the hotel and get it apart. I call the factory and they're like, no, you need to see a local authorized dealer. Like, you don't understand, I'm in the middle of Yucatan.
Yeah.
Peninsula here. What am I going to do?
Right.
And I call the local repair place here back where I live. And they're like, well, it's a hard code. You can't do anything about it. And my mindset is like, yeah, bullshit. Whether I got to get a donkey to pull this thing to the resort, I'm going to get something going.
Yeah.
I ended up taking apart my room, find a fuse, narrow it down. I plugged everything on the chair, all the actuators. Found out which one was that, did a workaround, got the chair working except for itself. Back in business, with no help from the factory or the local repair parts. And luckily I can do that stuff.
Yes.
But I feel for people that there's nothing out there. These companies, it's where they're set up because of the insurances. I can't even call an order apart without them checking through the insurance.
Right.
It's like it's not covered. I just want to buy the part. Well, because of the inducement laws I mentioned, there was no workaround. They couldn't sell me a part.
Yeah.
They would have to run it through an invoice and have them delivered. It's a house. And why? I don't know. I don't have to answer those questions.
No,
That's a whole nother podcast.
I say this repeatedly. There's a lot of people that are getting very, very rich off of our disease, from the manufacturers of the wheelchairs and the mobility devices to the people that are putting out the DMTs, the pharmaceuticals. There's a lot of people getting rich off our disease, and we're not getting any benefit out of a lot of it.
It's very rare. And, I'm on Medicare and I pay it's in the nose for it. And I get, people just like the wheelchairs. Even the one they will cover is still 20% copay. So you're still, a grand or better out of the pocket.
Yeah, right. And who has that money when they're not working?
If you did, you're not getting an overhead Hoyer. You're not getting, so it's tough.
I know.
It's like all the accessories I built for chairs. My own cup holders. I can afford to buy that stuff.
I know.
Even if it was be available.
Right. Yeah. Jeff, man, I can sit here and talk to you all day long. I know I could probably put together a 5-hour episode with you with how many years me and you have invested in this disease. And I really appreciate everything that you're about. You're a fighter, like I said, every time I get in the live with you and you're always on the move in your wheelchair and you're always showing stuff that you create. And, that's just the message that I want everybody to hear is just how you fight, man. And I just really appreciate you taking the time to share your journey, buddy. Is there anything that you want to tell anybody else out there that's listening that might be in a similar situation as you, they're in a wheelchair and they're thinking that their life is over and how they just need to figure shit out and you can still live a good life?
Yeah. Just basically stop what you're doing. Get it straight in that wheelchair and look around you. What can you do to better, somebody else, better your position? And sometimes it's tough to see. I was on a live one day where somebody's up in there and they're like, everything's negative. I don't see any positives. And I'm listening to them for a while from the basement. This is not one of our normal groups, but I listened for a while and I finally go up and it's like, okay, first of all, there's no positive. You don't see any positive. Nope. How about the 500 people in here supporting you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, you didn't even look at that, did you? Sometimes we don't want to see the positive, but it's there,
It is. You got to find it, man.
Even if it's your last days, you've seen the light, there's the positive. It all depends where you're at. I'm not saying it's easy. Believe me. I'm in a wheelchair with two people and I'm not even beginning to say it's easy.
Yeah.
But it's there.
I agree with you, buddy, man. Yeah, you got to figure it out. MS is going to take things from you, but you just got to adapt and figure it out and make your adjustments.
Because it changes. I went from having MS and still being a bodybuilder to having MS in a wheelchair in one hand and using a chainsaw.
Right.
I've been through a bunch of change.
Yeah, absolutely, brother.
And I'm not saying I'm a professional at it, but I'm getting better at it.
Yeah. I love talking to
Get
you,
used
Jeff.
to it.
I love talking to you, Jeff. I mean, like I said, you're always positive, and I can just talk to you like for hours, and I will definitely have you on again because you have a lot to share with, like I said, with as long as you've been dealing with this. I love talking to people that have the years that we have in, just to try to help people that are new in this diagnosis, or just, they're scared. Because I know that feeling. I know that feeling of being scared, and I just really appreciate you, brother.
And I hope to bring a positive note to it. And on that subject, this new poem I wrote, we're trying to get it into an MS Art Showcase, which one of our friends have turned me on to. And it's going to flash up a bunch of photos of different people with MS, just to show the world or whoever's watching that there are many faces to MS, and they are all doing something with it.
Yep. And I'm going to be part of that. I'm going to be part of that project you're working on. I'm really happy to be part of that. And I know a lot of the people that I recorded with, they said they wanted to be part of that. I will definitely put that up on my Facebook when Jeff does get that together. And I will put all your information in the description. If you want to connect with Jeff, he's just an awesome guy on TikTok. I talk with him almost every day. And I really want to thank you, Jeff, for coming on and sharing your journey with me. If you want to follow me on TikTok, you can find me MS Michigan Man 64. You can also find me on Instagram, MS Michigan Man 64, and I'm on Facebook, Brian Wallace out of Brunswick, Ohio. Don't forget to share it out and hit the subscribe button. We want to be understood. The best way to understand us is to listen to us talk. Till the next episode, this is the MS Michigan Man 64. I am out.